Welcome to the Revival Method podcast, where we teach you actionable steps that you can take to start moving, thinking, and feeling better. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Revival Method podcast. If you're new around here, my name is Dr. Brandon Parker, and today's episode is going to be special for a couple of reasons. The first reason is I brought on Coach Joe Hoye. He is a specialist when it comes to helping women past the age 40 get fit physically, mentally, and emotionally. And him and I got together to offer something very, very special, but I'm only going to allude to it later on in the episode. So listen to this episode, take the information that we have to give you, and also listen real carefully, because there is an opportunity that I would say would be life-changing for a majority of my listeners. So without further ado, let's get on with the podcast. Joe, can you introduce yourself to the listeners?
I can. Thank you, Brandon. Everybody listening, hello. My name is Joe Hoye. If you can hear me well, I'm a man, but I coach women 40 plus, and I'm also only a 30-year-old man. And so pretty crazy to hear until you get to know my story, but that's what I do. I've been coaching women 40 plus for 6 years. I haven't looked back, and I'm not going anywhere because I absolutely love it. I love the changes we create. I love the ladies we work with. And I love what I get to wake up and do every single morning. And so that's my elevator pitch. I guess it's really just around fulfillment, and maybe I'm selfish, but I love the results that I get to create every day.
I'm super glad that you addressed the elephant in the room, and I think we should explore that a little bit further, right? So I get something similar in my space with mobility. Everyone's like, just wait till you get to your 50s. You're not going to be able to move like you move now. And I'm sure you might get something of the same where it's like, how could you know? You're not a female with a certain hormones. So can you explain a little bit how you got into this niche, and also if you've ever encountered something like that?
Yeah. Oh my God, I've encountered it for 6 years, man. But real quick, I want to smash the limiting belief that you get of wait till you're in your 50s and you're going to see. But if you continue to live the lifestyle you live now, when you're in your 50s, I doubt you will be living the same life that those people live. That's just me going on a side rant. But yeah, for the people that are listening to me and saying, I already don't like this guy, he's 30 years old, he's a man, he's telling me, a lady that's 40 plus, what to do in a life that he's never going to experience, hear me out. You're absolutely right. I will never, ever experience or understand what it feels like to be a woman going through perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause. But because that's true doesn't mean I can't have a massive education and understanding around what it's like and how to solve those problems for you, right? And so it's really a three-part story, and I'll kind of blow through it just because I know we have limited time. But growing up, only child, I had two stepbrothers. 1 week while they were away at their other parents, it was just me and my mom in the house. I was 13 years old. I was really starting to go down a bad path. And my mom was like, hey, Joe, I'm going to the gym tonight. Do you want to come with me? I think she was trying to lure me into a better life. And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of bored. I'll go to the gym with you, Mom. And as soon as we went, when she held the door for me to walk in, it's like the gates of heaven opened. Like the angels were singing, the gold light was shining through, and I was like, damn, this place is cool. Like there's guys with muscles that I want. And I was a really skinny kid. I got picked on ever since I was a little kid, all throughout high school, for being the smallest, the goofiest, the least coordinated, unathletic, not smart, you name it. I wasn't good at anything. And I was like, well, maybe the gym's my time to shine. So I get in the gym, and thanks to her, it really redirected the path I was going down. And so the first part to my story is I want to give back to my mom and people like my mom, because she changed the direction of my life in a massive way. And I know that all other moms have the ability to do that. Yeah. So number two, I make it through high school. I continue to get picked on. I'm still super skinny when I graduate. And then I enter in college. I discover this thing called alcohol, which we all discover. And I go from super skinny. I get right up to my goal weight of about 190 pounds, but I don't stop there. I fly right by it. And then I go up to about 220, 225 pounds. And now I have a new problem. I'm still not that smart, not that coordinated, not athletic. But now I'm not skinny. I'm just fat. And I was like, well, shit, I don't like this either. I need to do something about it. So I start pursuing a career in surgery when I'm in college, which forces me to start to study anatomy, physiology, nutrition, kinesiology, everything that our body needs. And I get a really good understanding of this, and I learn how to manipulate my body in the ways that I want. And so now, not only do I want to give back to my mom and people like her, but I understand how to do that because I understand what the human body needs. And the first life that I transform is mine. So I go from too skinny to too fat. And now I'm what you see today. Like, nobody would ever believe I was that kid. I can learn anything I want. I'm athletic, I'm coordinated, I'm in really good shape, and I'm really confident in myself. And people started to notice, and so they started to ask. They're like, Joe, how did you do this? Like, you were skinny, you were fat, now you're you. Teach me your ways. And so I did. Enough people asked to where I started this online coaching program, which is really how Hoye Fit was born. And I thought I wanted to help people that look more like you and me, Brandon. People, guys that either want to gain muscle or lose fat and feel confident. So I started putting my message out to the world saying, hey, I'm running a challenge. I'm here to help. And I actually got a good amount of signups. And so I open up my laptop in the first morning, I do a Zoom call, and I'm about to start coaching my first group coaching program. But when I look back at the people looking at me on Zoom, nobody looks like us, dude. Right. They all look like my mom. Every single person is a lady, 40, 50, or 60 years old. I'm like, well, what happened? How did I get this demographic from the messaging that I put out? And I realized that by having really one of my only really positive and strong role models as my mom and being surrounded by her friends growing up, like, I just communicate well with this demographic. I talk in a way that resonates with them, and I have a lot of fun with them. So I rolled with it. And by the end of that first 6-week challenge, every single lady crushed it. Like, they lost weight, they felt confident, their mindset changed, and we just kept going. And so that's where Hoye Fit was born. But at the same time, when I started this, I was working in surgery because it didn't pay the bills. And so I graduated college, I got my first job in surgery, I ended up getting a second job somewhere else that was even better. And in that second job, I was on a team of 7 people. And I was not a surgeon, I was a surgical technologist. And so my job was to help the doctor do whatever he or she couldn't do with their own 2 hands. And on that team, it was myself and 6 other girls. For some reason, they thought it was a wonderful idea to take the only man and stick him inside the OB and GYN based rooms. And I was like, all right, here we go again. Like, let's do this. I've been jamming this my whole life. And so for the next, I don't know, honestly, like 3 to 4 years, I spent 40 hours a week plus on-call emergency surgery working primarily with doctors that spent their entire adult life learning about the female body. And so now we have a 3-part story. 1, I want to give back to my mom. 2, I'm really good at coaching people and making transformations. 3, I now have a massive understanding to how the female body works. And now I can only create better results for this demographic than I can for anybody else. And that's it. Like, fast forward 6 years, I have thousands of transformations. We have 4 coaches that work under me in Hoye Fit. The only people we work with are women 40 plus because we're really freaking good at it. And here we are.
It's almost like the stars aligned for you, right? Like, it just, everything was stacked in your favor to work with this population. And I'm glad that you rolled with it because I was in the same boat as you when I first started coaching people. I will, to give you a little bit of my backstory, I was working with professional athletes because I thought that strength and conditioning was my thing. And that's kind of how I got into mobility. And after a while, it was just like, I wasn't feeling fulfilled, right? And I felt like as I started to gravitate more and more towards the person that after having the conversation, I actually was more energized. I was like, okay, this is where I need to be. And it's super exciting to hear that it started when you were younger, not just like, oh, I'm just going to coach these people because I opened my laptop and these are the people that like me, but there's actual like roots to the reason why you're doing these things. And I am curious because the people that are listening might be dealing with some issues, and I would love for you to kind of highlight what are like some of the number one or like the top things that come to mind when somebody is starting to think about needing a coach. They're in menopause or perimenopause, and they just are frustrated with their weight gain. What are some false beliefs that you typically see with that demographic?
Yeah, so there's quite a few, but really for these ladies, I find that they've been dieting for so long because their weight gain problem didn't just happen usually when they hit 40 or 50 or 60. Like, usually it happened maybe around the time that they had kids and they couldn't get it off afterwards. And so they tried Weight Watchers. or they tried Ideal Protein or Atkins or Optavia or you name it, any of those big name diets. And the diets worked until they stopped. And then they didn't work anymore, right? They lost the weight, but they never got the tools to learn how to keep it off. And so then they tried the next diet, and the same thing happened. They tried the next diet, and the next diet, and the next diet, and eventually they did this so many times that now no diets actually work because their body is so stressed because all they do is this constant up and down calorie intake. And now we have to fix a deeper problem, which is their metabolism. And so before we can even bring a lady into fat loss, because their body won't allow it right now, we need to fix their metabolism and their hormones and their gut health and their mindset too. And so the other piece that we see is they don't think they can do it. Mm-hmm. They've seen so many of their friends, so many ads, so many coworkers succeed, and they've done the same things, but it doesn't work for them, that they think maybe I'm just broken. And so we need to fix what's up here in their brain and show them, hey, you're not broken. Right. Like, you've just not been doing the right things for your body. You haven't been giving your body what it actually needs. You've been depriving it of what it needs, and that's why it's not working. Because you need to work with it, not against it.
Yeah. That's one of the things I've noticed is when somebody tries a diet, of course they'll lose the weight because it's just they're adhering to something with the calorie deficit. And then when they yo-yo back, it's just like it's taking away their confidence every single time to a point where they think, what's the point? They like you said, well put, they feel broken. And that's why I'm such a large advocate on if we just take the time to understand the principles behind how our body operates, you're going to be much more free than if you were to just follow a diet that says eat this, eat that, and avoid this like it's the devil. Because if you just take the easy way out in the very beginning, you are always going to be shackled to whatever that dietary plan is. So in your program, do you take the time to kind of teach people these principles?
That's exactly what we do. And before we go any further, I actually want to offer something because I know we talked about it in the beginning. If anybody's interested in what I'm saying or resonates with it, I have something I want to give away at the end of this. I'm not going to share what it is. Maybe I'll let Brandon share it at the end, but just listen to the end because I think you're going to like it if this is hitting home with you. But that's exactly what we do, Brandon, is number one, so it's a 3-phase program. Number one, we make sure somebody's mind and body are ready to lose weight, because if they're not, weight loss is never going to happen. After that, we introduce our weight loss phase, which, by the way, isn't a diet. We aim to do one of 3 things. Well, 3 things all at one time, I should say. We figure out what foods agree with somebody's body, what foods somebody enjoys eating, and then figure out the maximum amount of food that somebody can eat while still losing 1 to 2 pounds a week. And after we nail that process, when we get them either to their goal or they're so confident in their ability to do it that we know they're going to reach it on their own, we bring them into what I think you were just getting at, what we call our keep it phase. And this is what I call the graduation phase, where really we're teaching them to do this for the rest of their life. We can get rid of the food scales. We can get rid of the tracking apps. We're never going to look at calories, protein, carbs, fat, fiber, you name it, again. We're just going to have them understand portion sizes, trust their own ability to be successful, and integrate that into a lifestyle that they enjoy and that also serves them. And when we can do that, we're done. Because I don't want to keep somebody forever. I just want somebody to keep the results forever.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, what I've been doing with our program, which I found to be super empowering. We have a similar approach when it comes to the diet aspect, but I also love to put them in the driver's seat when it comes to them building their own program, right?
Yeah.
So what I have them do in the last phase of ours is they come up with the program with us being on the call with them, and then we just go back and forth as to why they picked such and such exercise, what day of the week. So at the end of that call, they're just super confident with not only a program that they built, but they actually have the rationale as to why. Not the, hey, I followed the framework you gave me. It's more so like, no, this fits in my schedule because at 9 o'clock I have a Zoom call with so and such people, and then at 10 o'clock I have the same thing. So I can fit this small little mobility flow in between these two things. And to see that light bulb moment of like, oh my God, I have control, that is like, I would say bittersweet, because I love my clients, but it's just like, I've done my thing. It's you're about to go off on your own.
Yeah, I hear you. Like we definitely have our handful of clients where it's like, man, I know we're gonna get you to your goal, and I know you're gonna leave us, but selfishly, I don't want you to because I like seeing you every week.
Exactly.
But no, it's a really cool thing to be able to see in your case or my case, see a client feel so empowered that they're like, you know what, Joe, or you know what, Brandon, I don't need you anymore. Like I got this. I'm my own coach.
Now, when it comes to starting off with somebody that has been dealing with the yo-yo dieting or just the different trends, and they have tried to slash their calories to a point where it's unsustainable, now you're telling them, hey, we got to add more calories into your diet. And you can give them all the science, like we're going to upregulate your
Mm-hmm.
NEAT, we're going to make sure that you're feeling your best, but they are still deathly afraid of adding more calories into their diet. What does that conversation look like, and how do we start to approach that if we are in that mindset?
Yeah, so there's usually like two main things we do. And it starts a lot of times before they're even a client because I talk about this so much and I showcase so many success stories ahead of
Mhm.
time that they're like, okay, I get it. I don't want to do it, but I get it. And so a lot of times, like right now, the first client that comes to mind is Eleanor. And she wouldn't mind me saying her name because she's one of the clients we just mentioned. Like, I love her.
Yeah.
And when she came to us, she was eating 1,500 calories. Now, for a lot of people, that might even seem like a lot of food, but I promise you it's not. So now she's down at this point, I don't know. Last time I checked, she was down 21 pounds and she's eating 2,150 calories. And so when they see Eleanor eating 650 calories more, but she's down 21 freaking pounds, they're like, all right, like sign me up. Where's the dotted line? The other thing is I'm very transparent because that is a dream come true and that doesn't always happen. And I don't want to mislead people and make them think that it does. And so I'm transparent. Like, hey, this could happen. It happened to Eleanor. It's happened to a handful of other clients. But here's two other options. Option one is we increase your calories a little bit for a short amount of time and nothing changes in your body weight. Now, your body composition could change and the way you look and feel could, but the scale might not.
Mhm.
The other option is we increase your calories and the worst thing possible happens. You gain some weight. But I want to ask you a question. How much weight do you want to lose? And Jenny tells me she wants to lose 80 pounds. Like, awesome. I want you to lose 80 pounds too, Jenny. But here's the deal. If I promised you that you gained 5 pounds temporarily in order to lose 80 pounds permanently,
Mhm.
would you shake my hand on that? And every single time, they're like, yeah, like I would do that. And so we start that from day one. And having that understanding is helpful. Does that solve the problem? No, because sometimes they're going to wake up and jump on the scale and it goes up and they have that meltdown. And that's my job as a coach or my coach's jobs to be like, hey, I know, I get it. Like you're in a weight loss program and you're gaining and it's hard and it's not fun and you see all these other success stories and that's not you right now. But if you stick through it, it's going to be you, I promise, and I've got your back. And so like we got to talk them off the ledge because
Yeah.
while this process is really simple, it's not easy. It's hard mentally sometimes.
That's probably been the number one thing that has held back a majority of my clients is not necessarily, don't get me wrong, they most of them have followed a really bad dietary plan, but the big thing is the mental game, right? They
Mm-hmm.
have these emotional attachment to objective measures that don't really tell a whole story. Like as you mentioned, they hop on the scale, either they've been super consistent with their exercise and they don't see a change in the scale and they feel like it was all for nothing, or temporarily they see an increase. And I sound like a broken record when I talk to them because it's just like, okay, how's your stress? How's your sodium intake? Or did you just work out? Did you go to the bathroom? How's your fiber intake? Because all these
Mm-hmm.
things that have nothing to do with body fat storage is going to influence that number on the scale. So the faster that we can just get on the scale and have a non-emotional response to it, the more power that we'll have. But sometimes if I'm working with somebody that has too much of an emotional response, we actually don't even use the scale for the first phase because we're going to spend all that time focusing on just the foundational movement patterns, right? Like if you
Yeah.
can't squat, you can't hinge, you can't rotate your hips, you're not going to want to exercise anyway. Let's get that fixed first. And then we can actually just start focusing on the body composition. And what I found to be very crazy is I had a client who actually was the same body weight on the scale, right? But actually was 3% less in body fat. And she still felt like she was not making progress. And
Ah,
the only thing that actually saved me in perspective is I paid for her to go to a local resting metabolic rate test. And I said, take this test. Go see what it is. And her resting metabolic rate was actually 400 calories higher than when she started with us. So it's just like, hey, look, if you have this resting metabolic rate much higher, their metabolism is actually much healthier, which if we ever have to go into a caloric deficit, you're not slashing everything. And I think it
yep.
was only until she saw that number that she was just like, oh, okay. And she was able to get out of her head, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was actually going to tell a really similar story. Like we see that quite a bit in the beginning of like the scale hasn't changed, but man, every single other thing in their life has. Yeah.
When it comes to your program, I know that a lot of people get, let's say, they feel like there's a rush. Their
hmm
expectations is they want the results yesterday. How do you temper their expectations in a way that they're actually supporting healthy weight loss so they can maintain the muscle mass, maintain a metabolism that's actually conducive to their lifestyle activities, you know? Like, how are you setting that expectation?
I think education's everything, right? If you just tell, I mean, specifically me, if anybody's like me, they're going to understand. But if you tell me to go do something and don't give me a reason, I am not going to do it. But if you educate me on why it's a good idea, I'll probably follow along because it makes sense. So education's huge. Painting long-term pictures is huge, right? Because specifically for the ladies we work with, 40 plus, they don't always understand that weight loss isn't the goal. Fat loss could be the goal, but also muscle retention is the goal, or gaining some muscle is the goal because that's going to, like you just said, increase metabolic rate.
Yeah.
And we understand that here, what's the statistic on this? At 40 years old, women are losing 0.5% of muscle mass per year. At 50 years old, they're losing 1% per year. And at 60 years old, they're losing up to 2% per year. And so that's terrifying because when we understand that muscle is what allows us to eat calories and have food freedoms and live a good life and be functional and strong, huge. The next thing is that I need to get them to understand that their bone density is decreasing almost just as quickly as muscle mass. And so, yes, we need to lose fat. We also need to keep muscle. We need to increase bone density so that as you age, when you take a fall, you're not going to break a hip. You're going to have a bruise, get back up, and continue playing pickleball with your friends or whatever it is, right? And so 6 years ago when I started this, I didn't see that picture, to be honest with you. I just saw weight loss. But as I've continued to educate myself and coach people and progress myself, that's what it's all about. Like I want these ladies, because our program's called Fit for Life. I want these ladies to be fit for life, to be fit for anything that life throws at them for the rest of their life. And so it's not just weight loss.
That the what really like I can be really run down. And when I get a message from a client, they're like, "Hey, I was able to crawl around with my kids,
Yes.
or like go for a long hike without having the severe pain wherever they started with." Like that is why I do it. And I'm assuming that's why you do it as well, because like it doesn't matter, like because it is a business, right? It doesn't matter about the monetary value if you don't get that feedback, because we both got into this to really change lives, right? To really guide people out of this dark tunnel that they found themselves in, and as you said earlier, I think education is so big, but you also, as like where we're in a space, we have to make sure that education is like it's entertaining, like it's sexy, if you will. Like how do we get people to stop scrolling so they know they can hang around long enough to get the life changing information? And I think that it's much harder than it sounds.
Man, I hate that part of the game, if I'm being honest with you. I'm like, for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm just this simple country boy from Vermont. And so, like, getting me to post on my stories or getting me to make content fun is like, just enough. I just want to not have my phone and do stuff. But I understand that, like, I need to make it fun and interesting for these people, or else they're going to be like, well, this is boring. I don't like this guy. So it's this catch 22 for sure.
the when it comes to you being in Vermont, you're going to have some gnarly winters, and that seems to be a very large barrier for a lot of people. They don't want to move if it's extremely cold outside. What are some like quick tips or practical steps that you take, or the advice that you give your clients? Like, hey, it's winter, it's not great to go outside, but these are the things you can do to still be on track with your goals.
Well, the crazy thing is, Brandon, I don't know if you guys have those down in Florida, but they make these things called winter jackets. And if you put them on, you stay a whole lot more warm than if you just had your bikini on. And so I recommend our clients wear those in the winter. But like really, if you don't want my smart ass answer, if you want my real life answer, um, sometimes in order to live the life we want to live or have the quality of life we say that we want, every once in a while we need to do some things that we don't necessarily want to do. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm born and raised here in Vermont. I've spent 30 years here. I am not a winter guy. I don't like that it's dark at 3 o'clock. I don't like that it snows. I don't like that it's cold. But it's here and I can't change the weather. All I can do is change my actions. And so, number one, I'm very transparent about that in my group. Like I bitch about the winter. I'm like, guys, I freaking hate it here. But I also try to lead by example. I'm like, I don't want to go out for a walk, but I'm going. Look at me on my story that I don't like to post. I'm in a winter jacket. It's snowy. It's cold. The snowplow just went by and I got covered in snow and I'm mad, but I'm walking. And so like, we can do that. We can go out and do things that sometimes we don't want to do. We can also go to gyms. We can build a gym in our house. I have ladies that, and this is funny, if they're listening, they'll laugh at this, but like they'll be doing the dishes and they'll be stepping in place or they'll be dancing or they'll be doing something to increase that metabolic rate, and it works. Like just have some fun. You know, there's a million ways to burn more calories and stay active.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I don't own many shirts with sleeves, so you're honored to see a sleeved shirt here. Florida, it gets cold, but it's like 60s, and I'm sure that you would be completely fine with that.
Yeah, my followers are not going to be happy when you just said that.
Well, if they ever come across my page, they'll understand that I'm hardly ever wearing sleeves or shoes, so I just look like the hillbilly in Florida.
That's awesome. I love it.
I'm one reel away from tackling an alligator, so.
Yeah, you're like Joe Exotic.
Exactly. So I love the fact that you mentioned that, like, even though things are hard, you still have to do them. Because some people try to paint this pretty picture of, oh, it's going to be extremely easy. You just have to do this one, two, three, and it's not a real picture by any means. Because I mean, as motivation sits right now, it's like it's super high in the very beginning, and then it goes through this like death valley, and then right when you're close to getting that goal again, then it spikes again. So what are we doing in that death valley to make sure that we traverse it, right? And sometimes you just need that mentality of like, it doesn't need to be perfect, it doesn't need to be easy. I just have to do it. I just have to go through it. And I feel like there's the unspoken character and identity development behind that, right? The repetitive things of doing that I didn't want to do to make me a stronger person. Would you agree with that?
Dude, I love this. We could have an entire episode just on this. So there's a couple things, and I'll try and remember them all. Number one, I always explain to our clients in my community, like, look, guys, what I want you to do is probably the most simple thing you'll ever hear. And they look at me and sometimes they get mad. They're like, Joe, I've been doing this. It's not simple. I'm like, no, no, no. I chose my words carefully. It is simple, but it's not easy. By no means is it easy physically or mentally. It's hard, especially when you have a bad day, it gets even harder. But it gets easier, right? As you practice consistency, as you stack up these wins, it gets easier every day to the point where you look like me or Coach Carissa or Coach Kate or Coach Julie or Coach Steven, right? None of us wake up and dread anything we have to do. And we do everything that we tell you to do. And it's easy because we've done it for so long that it's just part of our life. And I promise you, we are not special. You can get to the same place as us. And many of our ladies have. Like we have ladies that are in our community just because they like hanging around that have already reached their goal. And like they'll jump in the comments and be like, guys, I don't even think about this anymore. Like I don't track my food. I don't make a grocery list. I don't push myself to work out. I just go to bed and I realize I did it all. It's like, that's what I want everyone to get to. And the other thing that you mentioned is, I forget what you said exactly, but you mentioned perfect.
Yeah.
And the day I meet someone that's perfect is the day I'll give up everything. But it just doesn't exist, right? Nobody's perfect. And I'm very transparent with my ladies because I want them to know that I struggle a lot too.
Mhm.
I have a lot of days where I don't feel like doing stuff, right? I have days where my mindset is so low that I don't have an appetite, but I understand that giving my body what it needs is crucial, and so I do the thing that I don't really want to do. Like that's eat 3,000 calories. I have days where I wake up sore, or I had a crappy day in business, or someone said something that bothered me the day before, and I wake up I'm like, I don't want to go to the gym at 6 a.m. But like I made this promise to myself that I would do it because I want future me to be proud. And so like that's why I do it, because I'm dedicated, I'm committed, and I made a promise to myself. And if we can't stick to our own promises, how are we going to be honest to anybody else?
Does you getting yourself to do the thing that you don't want to do start with some sort of self-talk where you're sore, you're tired, maybe you had a bad day in business? Because it's very easy for any of those things to happen, and you can justify why you shouldn't be doing the things that you agreed to do to begin with. And we see it with our clients all the time. And I'm just curious. So, what are some things that you do? Maybe it's not a trick or a tip, but I'm just curious for some insight here. How do we go from, I don't want to do this, I know I should do this, and actually end up doing it?
Yeah, I think it is, whether you call it self-talk or a mind game or whatever, I think it all starts in the brain. And I was trying to answer this question while you were laying it out because I honestly don't know. It just happens naturally for me now. But I think what it is I weigh every single action in my brain before I do it. And I ask myself, how is this going to serve future Joe? In the way I see it, there's always two future me's. There's the one that does the thing
Mhm.
and then gets the outcome. And then there's the one that doesn't do the thing and doesn't have the outcome. And then I'm like, all right, how important is this outcome? Like, if I don't go to the bank today and cash a check, I'll be okay, right? I can go tomorrow and it'll be fine. So maybe I'll skip going to the bank if it's rainy out, or I want to go out and walk in the woods because it's nice and that's more important. But if I'm going to skip the gym, and I've skipped the gym 3 days before, I'm like, okay, what's future me going to sacrifice here? It's like, well, the more I sit around, the more achy I get, the worse my mindset gets because I understand movement helps my mindset. The more weight I'm going to put on. So no, this is not acceptable to me. I'm going to get up and move my body, and I understand that after I'm going to feel better. And so I'm always weighing things out before I do them or while I do them.
I think that's huge. I think the ability for you to kind of look at it nakedly, right? Like this is what I plan on doing or not plan on doing, and this is going to be the outcome, is a sense of awareness that some people don't have the skill for. And it's because they are inadvertently avoiding that hard conversation with themselves. And I mean, of course, like it's easier said than done. Like, hey, sit with yourself and ask
Mm-hmm.
these questions. But there's a reason why people don't do it. I'm still here.
I
VHS, I
see.
warned you about it.
Yeah, you're good, man.
For everyone that's a video podcast and you've been around long enough, you know that I need a better camera. But all I was saying was you have these people that have the inability to build awareness. And do you think that when you are working with somebody, especially in the first phase, are you encountering this type of issue? And then if so, what are some things that you are doing with your clients to try to correct it?
You're good, man. You ask a lot of really great questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, our like I said, our program's called Fit for Life, and I think a lot of people, when they hear that, they're thinking physically fit. They look good, they feel good, they move well, their clothes fit. That's physical fitness. But
Yeah.
there is also a massive piece that is mental fitness. And we look at that. Like I've recently given a number of our clients these mindset podcasts because I realize that they're seeing results physically, but man, their mindset's eons behind.
Yeah.
And so they start doing that, and like they start feeding their brain this nutritious mental food of like mindset and how to tackle it, and then everything changes. Right? Because I mean, like you and I have hit on a couple times, mindset's everything. Um, I I I need to give them a strong mindset, and a growth mindset and show them that they can create whatever it is they want. And when they realize that, they become so unstoppable. And I truly think nobody can graduate our program without that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that our conversation here is actually hitting on areas that heavily get neglected. I mean, everyone can say, oh, it's a mindset game, oh, it takes awareness, but I love the idea that we're kind of digging a little bit deeper here and kind of explaining how it is a process, just like how anything else is. Like, you're not going to wake up and like what I was just say, meditate your way into the proper mindset, right? Or have some cool aspirations on your mirror. Like, that's not going to change your mindset. It's doing the work. It's proving yourself. One of the things that I like to do with my clients, especially the ones that are really down the dumps, is they have put everyone else in front of themselves for so long that subconsciously they don't think they need to show up for themselves anymore. They can make a commitment, but they can say, well, it's for me, so I can actually put it on the back burner and do this for other people. Almost, if I had to sum it up, people pleasers, right? I think I resonate well with that because I also do that. I'm like, well, I can suffer because I can handle that. Let me do this for you. And one of the things that I've been working on, and also the things that I have my clients do, is commit to one thing that's unbelievably small. That even if you are in the worst case scenario, you're so busy, you have no time, you can still maintain that commitment. I know some people do the cliche thing of make your bed, right? But I do think that there is something to it where it's saying, I'm going to do this every day, and there's nothing that's going to stop me, because with that mindset, it grows, right? Like, we instead of it being making the bed, maybe it's all right, 2 days out of the week, I'm going to make sure that I get outside for 15 minutes. And it just keeps on going and going. But I do think it starts somewhere. And I do think that we underestimate how small habits can grow into this massive lifestyle change. Have you seen that with your clients?
I think what it comes down to, simply put, is keeping the promises that you make for yourself, no matter how big or small they are. What you just said, like, if I promise myself that when I wake up, I make my bed, you win every day if you do that. Or if I promise myself that I'm going to get outside for 2 walks today, you win every time you do that. And like you just said, it's just a muscle. Like, the more you train that muscle, the stronger it gets, and those promises get bigger. And then when those promises get bigger, you get extremely dangerous in a really good way, because then you can make these promises to yourself of like, no, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to get that raise. I'm going to lose 50 pounds. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to change my life in any way that I want to change it. And you know that you can do it.
Now, because you and I both have a mentorship meeting that we should be going to shortly, I'm actually going to take the moment and ask you to reveal the thing that we've been teasing throughout this entire podcast, because I'm bound to mess it up.
Okay. All right. I got you. So I'll run the show here. In the link in this podcast description, you click that, it's going to bring you to a giveaway. And what I want to do for anyone that's resonated with this is I want to offer you, not all of you, just one of you, 6 months of free coaching. And there's no strings attached, right? You're going to get brought through all 3 of our phases. You're going to work with one of our amazing coaches, whether it be a registered dietitian, a mindset specialist, a behavior specialist, a movement specialist, whatever it is, you're going to get access to all of us. And that's it. So inside that link, there's going to be 4 things you need to answer: your name, your phone number, your email. That's so we can contact you. So don't give me any dummy information, or I promise you don't win, because I can't contact you. In the last part, why? Why do you deserve to win 6 months of free coaching? And this is where I want you to become the biggest salesperson you've ever been. I want you to tell me why it is you should be the winner. And I'm going to read through all of them. We're probably going to nail down 5 of these. I'm going to bring it to our team. And my team's going to make the final decision as to who wins 6 months of free coaching. And it's just something I like to do to give back to an audience, right? Like, Brandon, you've asked amazing questions. I think that, or I hope that people can walk away with some piece of information that fires them up today. But I really hope that I can give back to you and the audience and really change one person's life in a massive way.
There's another thing that I would love for you also to announce, because you're always giving away amazing things. You also have a summit coming up, right?
I do. Okay, so in terms of changing lives, the goal's been simple. I mean, you hit on it earlier, Brandon. Our goal as coaches is to change lives. And I realized that as a solo coach, I could change about 100 lives at a time. So now I have 4 coaches, we can change about 500 lives at a time. Still not enough for me. And so I put together a summit. It's completely free. So if you're listening to this podcast, that's all you need. You just need an internet connection. It's 5 days. It's online. It's called the Midlife Makeover Summit. So again, it's only for women 40 plus. On day 1, we're talking about nutrition. On day 2 is exercise, then mindset, then health, then menopause, and then we have a bonus day. And that's going to cover career, relationships, marriage, empty nesting, children, guided yoga, guided manifestation, guided meditation, you name it. I'm going to change your life in any way possible, and it's completely free. So on every day of the event, we have 4 to 6 speakers. We have NFL players. We have other massive coaches. We have TV hosts. We have cancer survivors. We have doctors. You name it, they're there. They're there for you, and they're taking their time for free to help change a life. Man, saying that sounds pretty crazy, actually, but that's what I've put together.